On this episode of the Layover Live, Paul stops by to talk about BERT.
Only one BERT, and I know just what he looks like.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode 98 of the Layover Live, where we bring you the top article from the Layover each week. I'm Jason Swick, VP of Digital Marketing, joined by Director of Business Intelligence, Paul McLeod. So Paul, thanks for stopping by.
How's it going?
Right, we're not talking gossip about BERT today, but we are talking about the BERT update that came from Google. Now, Google does updates, hundreds of updates every single year, right? And some are big, some aren't so big.
Right.
But I want to get to the bottom of this one. So let's talk about this update that came out from Google. So what exactly is the BERT update?
All right. So it's sort of an interesting one because it has more to do with how they interpret queries than how do they interpret your content.
Okay.
At least for now. But essentially, BERT is actually, generally speaking, sort of code base, an algorithm that they have Google developed, but open source to the whole world. So all of you could actually, all of you with enough expertise,
Yes.
And I count myself in the not having that expertise.
You got a lot of credit.
Yeah. All of us could, in theory, use BERT for our own projects of trying to understand language with machines a little bit better. So really, it's about taking those things that users type into Google and doing a better job of understanding what it exactly it is a human would understand from those words, as opposed to sort of the older ways that machines would do it.
Okay. So looking at that, I think probably the number one question we're going to get, or that our analysts are going to get, is what effect will this have on their organic ranking?
Yeah,
If any at all.
It's an interesting question. So Google expects it to affect about 10% of all searches.
Okay, that's a lot.
That's for the whole internet. No real way to tell whether it's going to be higher or lower within
Okay.
the DMO space as of yet. But I think what we would expect to see happen is that Google would give better results for certain queries that might have been harder to understand in the past. So some examples I've seen are somebody said was looking for information on how to catch a cow in Maine, and in Maine while fishing or something like that. And it turns out that that's like lingo in Maine for catching a striped bass, which is not what you or I or even Google would normally think of as a cow.
Not at all. Okay.
And after BERT, this guy said he searched it before and afterwards. He got stuff about bovine cows beforehand, and afterwards Google totally figured it out that he was talking about catching a bass fish. So we would expect Google to get those better. So to some extent, if you have good content, as always, they're just trying to get better results and better content in front of users. So if you have good content, I would expect that you would benefit, but I'm doubting that it's going to be massive, basically.
Yeah, it makes sense. And your example is, that they quote from the article is really good, where it talks about, hey, before it would have just saw cow as we all know it, but that it's the fact that it's married with the term fishing now, the algorithm basically understands that those things should be taken into consideration as it starts to pull queries. Results rather for that query.
Yeah.
So what should DMOs do then in order to really maximize their visibility after this update? Because that's one thing we get, right? First is usually, is my organic traffic going to be affected at all? And then what should I do to maximize my visibility based on this update?
Yeah.
Or is it too early to tell? Even?
Well, it's too early to tell what's going to really be important, but I think it's a safe bet that if it works, if it doesn't work, they will remove it, and this will still be good advice. And if it does work, which I presume it will, then this will also be good advice, which is just always focus on having more content that is good, that is well written, that provides useful, hard to find information, and that is structured well. Because the more that, even if you have a longer piece, you have different headings or different links within it that point to different subtopics within the text, Google should hopefully recognize that better now and return your content for better results. So more of a shift away from directories, lists, addresses, and so forth, and more towards experiential, high-quality content is always a good idea with this kind of thing.
Yeah, good advice there, Paul. And again, hundreds of updates throughout the year that we normally don't feel. There's been a lot of buzz around this update, as there is with some of the larger updates.
Yeah.
Again, it's probably too early. There's gonna be people out there that are gonna come out with all their different ways and all their different guides about how to optimize for this. The fact is, we've got to wait until, regardless, having good structure, having good SEO, just basic fundamental best practices is always the way to win and always the way to do well.
Yeah.
But any question about that, of course, you can reach out to your analyst and talk about those things. So thank you, Paul, for stopping by and talking about that update, because I know there's been some buzz around that. It's a good thing to share. And thank you for tuning in each and every week. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please do now. It's the best way to stay on top of all the content we provide each and every week. Also, we're available on Spotify and iTunes if you want to consume us through podcasting. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time, and have a great day.